A customer sent back her food 9 times. On the 10th, the chef came out. I've worked at the same restaurant for 4 years. It's a small Italian place called Bellini's off the main road in town. We seat about 60 people on a busy night. The owner is a man named Gio, who came here from Naples when he was 19, and opened this place with his wife 30 years ago. He makes everything from scratch. The pasta, the bread, the sauces, everything. People drive over an hour to eat here. We have a waiting list most weekends. I'm not saying this to brag. I'm saying it because what happened last Saturday needs context. I was working the dinner shift. We were fully booked. Every table was spoken for by 6 p.m. At 6:15, a woman walked in with a man I assumed was her husband. Her name was Colleen. I know because she made sure everyone in the building heard it multiple times before the night was over. She had a reservation for 2 at table 11 by the window. I sat them down, brought water, and gave them menus. Normal start. Colleen ordered the chicken parmesan. Her husband ordered the lasagna. The food came out in 22 minutes. Gio's kitchen runs like a clock. Colleen took one look at her plate and pushed it toward me. She said the chicken was too dark. I looked at it. It was golden brown, perfectly cooked. I'd served hundreds of the same dish and it looked exactly like it always did, but I smiled and told her I'd bring a new one. The kitchen made a new plate. I brought it out. She cut into the chicken, put a small piece in her mouth, chewed for about 3 seconds, and pushed the plate toward me again. She said it was dry. It wasn't dry. Gio brines his chicken for 24 hours before he cooks it. It is physically impossible for it to be dry, but I took it back. The 3rd plate came out. She said there was too much sauce. The 4th plate, she said there wasn't enough cheese. The 5th plate, she said, was cold. It had been out of the oven for less than 90 seconds. I know because I was standing at the kitchen window when Gio pulled it out. Her husband hadn't said a word. He sat there eating his lasagna slowly like this was something he'd seen before. He didn't look embarrassed. He didn't look annoyed. He just looked tired, like a man who had been living inside this kind of thing for a very long time. By the 6th plate, the other tables were starting to notice. Our kitchen is open so you can see the cooks working. Gio was remaking this woman's food himself every single time. His face was getting redder, not from the heat, from restraint. The 6th plate, she said the pasta on the side was overcooked. The 7th, she said it was undercooked. The 8th, she said the plate was too hot to touch. I'm not exaggerating. She said the ceramic plate was too hot and she shouldn't have to wait for it to cool down. The 9th time I brought the food out, I set it in front of her and she didn't even look at it. She just said, "This isn't going to work." I asked her what specifically was wrong. She said, "I shouldn't have to explain it this many times. A good restaurant would know by now." I stood there. I didn't say anything. I had been serving this woman the same perfect dish for over an hour, 9 times. The kitchen had made the same meal 9 separate times. Every plate was flawless. Every single one. She knew it. I knew it. Her husband knew it. Everyone in that restaurant knew it. I took the 9th plate back to the kitchen. Gio was standing at the stove with his arms crossed. He looked at me and said, "What was wrong with that one?" I told him she said it just wasn't going to work. He closed his eyes for about 5 seconds. Then he started making the 10th plate. While he was cooking, Colleen waved me over to her table. She had her purse in her lap and her arms folded across her chest. She told me that she had been extremely patient. She said that in her experience, when a restaurant fails to deliver a satisfactory meal after this many attempts, the right thing to do is comp the dish entirely. She said she also expected her husband's meal to be free since the evening had been ruined for both of them. She said she wanted a dessert sent to their table as well, on the house. She said all of this without raising her voice. She said it calmly, like she was reading terms from a contract she had written before she ever walked through the door. I told her I would speak to the owner. I walked into the kitchen and told Gio everything. He didn't yell. He didn't curse. He turned off the stove. He wiped his hands on his apron. He picked up the 10th plate of chicken parmesan and walked out of the kitchen into the dining room. Every eye in the restaurant followed him. He walked to table 11 and set the plate down in front of Colleen. Then he pulled out the chair next to her husband and sat down. He didn't raise his voice. The whole dining room heard him anyway. The quiet made everything louder. Forks stopped moving. Conversations died mid-sentence. I stood 3 feet behind his chair with the empty tray still in my hands. Gio leaned forward slightly and folded his hands on the table next to the 10th plate. He looked at Colleen the way you look at someone when you're choosing your words very carefully. He said he'd been cooking for 47 years. He said he opened this restaurant 30 years ago with his wife. He said in all that time, in all those years of serving thousands of people, no customer had ever sent back the same dish 10 times. Not once, not ever. His voice stayed level, calm, but there was something underneath it that made my stomach tight. Colleen opened her mouth. Her lips parted and I could see her forming words. Gio raised one hand, not aggressive, just up, palm facing her. She stopped. Her mouth stayed open for a second before she closed it. He kept going. He said he made every single one of those 10 plates himself. He said each one was identical to the hundreds of chicken parmesan dishes he serves every month. He said he knows his food. He knows his kitchen. He knows with complete certainty that there was nothing wrong with any of them. Nothing. Colleen's face changed. The color came up from her neck. Red spread across her cheeks like someone had turned up the heat under her skin. She sat up straighter. Her hands gripped the edge of the table. She said she wanted to speak to the owner. Right now. She said this was completely unacceptable and she demanded to speak to whoever was in charge of this establishment. Her husband's eyes closed. I watched it happen. His whole face just collapsed inward like he was trying to disappear. His lips moved. I barely caught it. "Please." That's what he said. So quiet I almost missed it even though I was standing right there. Just that one word. "Please." Gio looked at her for a long moment. Then he said he was the owner. He said his name was Gio Bellini and he'd owned this restaurant for 3 decades. He said he was going to do something he'd never done in 30 years of business. He stood up. The chair scraped against the floor. The sound cut through the silence like a knife. He picked up the 10th plate. The chicken parmesan sat there perfect and untouched. Golden brown. Cheese melted exactly right. Sauce pooled around the edges just like it should. He held it in both hands and turned toward the kitchen. Every single person in that restaurant watched him walk away. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. The only sound was his footsteps and the quiet clink of silverware he passed. I followed him. I don't know why. My feet just moved. I walked through the dining room behind him with everyone's eyes on both of us. We went through the kitchen door. The heat hit me first. Then the smell of garlic and tomatoes and bread baking. Gio set the plate on the stainless steel counter next to the sink. Augustine was at the stove stirring something in a large pot. He looked up up when we came in. Gio told him to pack it up as takeout. His voice was different now, tired. Augustine stopped stirring. Gio said Colleen and her husband were leaving. He said their bill was paid in full by the house. He said they were permanently banned from Bellini's. He said it like he was reading facts off a list. No emotion, just information. Augustine nodded once and reached for a takeout container from the shelf above the prep station. I grabbed one of the white plastic bags we use and wrote the table number on it out of habit. Then I crossed it out. They wouldn't be coming back. I walked back through the kitchen door carrying the bag. The container was warm through the plastic. I could feel the heat against my palm. When I got to table 11, Colleen was already standing. Her purse hung from her shoulder. She was gathering her napkin and her phone from the table. She saw me coming and her voice went up, loud enough that tables on the other side of the room could hear. She said she would be leaving a review online. She said she would be telling everyone she knows about the terrible service at this restaurant. She said people deserve to know how customers were treated here. She took the bag from my hand and held it like it was evidence of something. A woman at table 8 set down her fork. The sound of metal on ceramic was sharp in the quiet. She said her name was Philomena Carlton. She said she'd been coming to Bellini's for 15 years. She said she just watched Colleen abuse the staff for over an hour. Her voice was steady and clear. She said if Colleen posted anything online, she would make sure everyone knew the truth about what really happened. She said she would tell people exactly what she saw. 3 other tables started talking, not to each other, to Colleen. A couple at table 5 said they were getting ready to leave themselves. The woman said they came here for their anniversary. She said watching Colleen's behavior was ruining their dinner. Her husband nodded and said they almost asked to be moved to a different section. Another man 2 tables over said he'd been coming here for years and never saw anything like this. He said Gio ran the best kitchen in town and didn't deserve to be treated that way. Colleen's husband looked like he wanted the floor to open up and swallow him. His shoulders curved forward. His head dropped. He stared at the tablecloth like if he looked hard enough he might fall through it and disappear. Colleen grabbed the bag tighter and turned toward the door. Her heels clicked fast against the tile floor. Sharp, angry sounds, but her husband didn't follow right away. He stayed in his chair for 3 more seconds, maybe 4. He looked up at me. His eyes met mine. I'm sorry. He mouthed the words. No sound came out, but I knew what he said. Then he stood up slowly and followed his wife toward the exit. The door opened, closed. They were gone. The restaurant stayed quiet for maybe 2 seconds. Then someone started clapping. Table 8, Philomena. The sound broke the silence like a dam breaking. Other tables joined in. The clapping spread through the whole room. People stood up. The couple at table 5. The man who'd been defending Gio. Table after table. The kitchen door opened and Gio came out. He looked exhausted. His apron had sauce stains on it. His face was red from the heat and maybe from everything else. Philomena was still clapping. She stood up fully and the clapping got louder, stronger. It turned into a standing ovation. The whole restaurant, every single person, standing and clapping for Gio while he stood there looking like he might cry. I picked up the empty plates from table 11. My hands shook. The ceramic clinked together and I had to set them down on my serving tray before I dropped them. Clementine walked over from the host stand. She started gathering the water glasses and the napkins. Her eyes were wide. She leaned close to me and kept her voice low. She said she'd been hosting here for 2 years and never saw anything like what just happened. She said she couldn't believe how calm Gio stayed through the whole thing. I told her I couldn't either. My heart was still racing. The adrenaline made everything feel sharp and bright. I could hear every fork scraping against every plate in the dining room. The kitchen door swung open behind me and I jumped. It was just Xavier coming out with food for table 9. He grinned at me and said that was the wildest thing he'd ever seen. He said we should put a sign on the menu. Colleen free guarantee. I laughed even though my hands were still shaking. The rest of the dinner service felt different after that. People at the tables kept catching my eye and smiling. They went out of their way to tell me how good the food was. A man at table 3 ordered the chicken parmesan just to prove a point. He said it was perfect. He left a 40% tip. Table 8 ordered dessert even though they said they were full. Philomena told me they wanted to support the restaurant after what happened. She said Gio deserved their business. Xavier's table 5 couple stayed for an extra hour just talking and drinking wine. The woman told me on her way out that watching Gio stand up to that customer made their anniversary dinner memorable in a good way. She said some things matter more than perfect service. She said respect matters. By the time we closed at 10:30, the whole staff was exhausted, but nobody wanted to leave. We cleaned the dining room together, wiped down tables, stacked chairs, swept the floors. Gio came out of the kitchen after we finished. He still had his apron on. He gathered us all together in the middle of the empty dining room. He said he wanted to apologize. He said he lost his composure tonight and he was sorry we had to see that. Augustine cut him off before he could say anything else. Augustine had been Gio's sous chef for 12 years. He'd worked in kitchens since he was 16. He said that wasn't losing composure. He said that was handling an impossible situation with more grace than most people could manage. He said Colleen was trying to run a scam, and Gio shut it down without raising his voice or making a scene. He said that took control. Clementine nodded. She said watching Gio sit down at that table was the most professional thing she'd ever seen. Xavier agreed. He said Gio protected all of us by not letting that woman walk all over the staff. Gio looked at the floor. His eyes were red. He said he'd been worried about banning a customer so publicly. He said he built this restaurant on treating people with respect. He said he didn't know if he did the right thing, but then he looked up and his voice got stronger. He said he couldn't let someone manipulate his staff like that. He said he couldn't let someone waste his kitchen's time making the same perfect dish 10 times just to get free food. He said this restaurant was built on respect, and he wouldn't compromise that for anyone, not even a paying customer. We all stood there quiet for a minute, then Augustine started clapping, slow at first, then faster. We all joined in. Gio shook his head, but he was smiling. He told us to go home. He said we earned our rest tonight. I didn't go home right away. I sat in my car in the parking lot and checked my phone. My hands had finally stopped shaking. I scrolled through my messages and then opened the restaurant's page online. I don't know why. Maybe I was looking for something. Maybe I just needed to see if the night was really over. It was Monday morning when I finally checked again. 2 days had passed. I opened the restaurant's review page while I drank my coffee. There it was. Colleen's review. Posted Sunday night at 11:47 p.m. 1 star. The review called Bellini's unprofessional. It said the owner was rude and aggressive. It said the food was was subpar and the service was terrible. It said she would never recommend this restaurant to anyone. I felt my stomach drop. Then I scrolled down. 47 responses, all from other customers, all posted within the last 12 hours. Every single one defended Bellini's. People described what they saw Saturday night. They used words like manipulative and abusive to describe Colleen's behavior. They praised Gio for standing up to her. 3 people said they were at the restaurant that night and watched the whole thing happen. They said Colleen's review was a lie. One woman wrote 6 paragraphs describing every single plate that got sent back. She listed all 9 complaints. She said she counted. Philomena kept her promise. She posted a long, detailed account of the evening on 3 different local community pages. Her post got shared 200 times in 2 days. People commented saying they'd had similar experiences with Colleen at other restaurants. Someone said she pulled the same thing at an Italian place 2 towns over. Another person said she tried it at a steakhouse and got kicked out there too. The local food blogger who covered our area sent Gio an email asking for an interview. I saw it on the office computer when I came in for my shift. Gio wrote back and said no. He said he didn't want to profit from drama. He said what happened was between him and a customer and it was over now. The blogger wrote about it anyway. She posted an article about restaurants protecting their staff from abusive customers. She called Gio a hero. She said more restaurant owners should follow his example. Business picked up. I noticed it the first weekend after the incident. We had a waiting list that stretched to 3 hours. People called asking for reservations weeks in advance. Some of them mentioned the Colleen situation on the phone. They said they wanted to support a restaurant that stood up to that kind of behavior. Xavier joked that we should send Colleen a thank you card. Our weekend waiting list got so long we had to start turning people away. Gio hired another server to help with the rush. 3 weeks passed. The whole thing started to feel like it happened a long time ago. Then a woman came in for dinner on a Wednesday night. It was quiet. Only half the tables were full. She sat in my section. Table 4 by the window. She ordered the chicken parmesan. I brought it out and set it in front of her. She took 1 bite and smiled. She said it was perfect. Then she asked if she could talk to me for a minute. She said her name was Rebecca. She said she was Colleen's sister-in-law. I felt my whole body go tense. She held up her hands. She said she wasn't here to cause trouble. She said she came to thank Gio. She said the family had been dealing with Colleen's restaurant behavior for years. She said Colleen pulled this same routine at every nice restaurant they went to. She said it was embarrassing. She said nobody in the family wanted to eat out with Colleen anymore. She said watching Gio finally set a boundary changed something. Rebecca's voice got quiet. She said Colleen's husband had been in therapy since that night. She said he was working on leaving the marriage. She said he'd been trapped for 15 years. She said watching Gio refuse to accept the abuse somehow gave him permission to do the same. She said he realized he didn't have to live like that anymore. I didn't know what to say. I told her I'd get Gio. He came out of the kitchen and Rebecca told him everything she told me. Gio listened. His face stayed calm but his eyes got wet. He told Rebecca her meal was on the house. He said she was welcome at Bellini's anytime. Then he went back to the kitchen and made her something special, a dish that wasn't on the menu. When I brought it out, Rebecca was crying. She said to tell Gio thank you. She said he had no idea what he'd done for their family. I walked back to the kitchen and found Gio standing at the prep station with his head down. He was quiet for a long time. Then he looked up at me and said, Rebecca's words meant a lot, but he was just doing what felt right. He said he didn't want to be thanked for basic human decency. He said anyone would have done the same thing. I told him that wasn't true. I told him most people would have just kept remaking the food and let Colleen win. He shook his head and said winning wasn't the point. He said respect was the point. He went back to the stove and started cooking something that wasn't on the menu. When it was ready, he told me to bring it to Rebecca's table. I carried it out and set it in front of her. It was a special pasta dish with fresh lobster and cream sauce. She looked at it and then looked at me. I told her it was on the house and that Gio said she was welcome at Bellini's anytime. She started crying again. She ate slowly, and when she was done, she left a $100 tip on a free meal. 6 months passed. The whole thing with Colleen became a story we told new servers during training. Business stayed strong. Our weekend waiting list was still 3 hours long. People kept coming back. Some of them mentioned the incident when they sat down. They said they heard about what happened and wanted to support us. Most people just came for the food. Gio went back to cooking in the kitchen. I went back to serving tables. Everything felt normal again, except it didn't feel exactly the same. Our reputation got stronger somehow. People trusted us more. They knew we wouldn't let them down, and they knew we wouldn't let anyone push us around either. I think about that night sometimes when I'm working a hard shift. I think about Gio sitting down at table 11 and refusing to accept what was happening. I learned something important from watching him. I learned that standing up for yourself and your people matters. I learned that respect goes both ways. I'm grateful I got to see Gio show all of us how it's done.